Good evening. Welcome to Adult Story Time. I'm E.R.A, and tonight we're going to be reading Chapter 4 from the clinic. We are looking a little bit more into the world of the WPO. It's getting more terrifying. Kids are starting to catch on to what's happening to them. And there's a lot of very graphic scenes and violence and things that might be hard to take in, so make sure you're prepared. Chapter 4, We Can Try Again. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Martin Luther King Jr. Harry, you need to listen to me. That child is a liability to this family. You have to stop coddling her and get her to act appropriately. Ginevra was twisting the bed covers and kicking her feet beneath them. She rarely let herself get worked up, but Sarah was her weak spot. There's nothing wrong with Sarah. She's lovely. She just doesn't care about the same things as you and our boys. I don't either, and it's never been a problem, Harry answered his wife, daring to defy her. You are gorgeous, so no one cares what your interests are. Her appearance is atrocious, and a red flag waving that we do not have our house in order. I can't show that kind of weakness. I don't care about her academic pursuits or strange friends, but she absolutely must start taking care of herself and carry herself with pride. She is a Ferrari after all, and needs to behave like it. When they were married, Harold took Ginevra's last name. His surname of Smith was worthless, but the trillionaire family behind Ferrari carried a lot of weight. Many of them moved seamlessly from being elite persons in Italy to elite members of the WPO globally. Okay, honey, I agree she should care about her appearance a little more. I'll do my best to encourage her. Maybe if you gave her some tips. I don't know fashion. If fashion were the only issue, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Get her to start taking an active interest in her looks, and I'll handle the rest. They went to sleep with the covers between them, turned away from one another. Ginevra considering asking one of her aunts back in Italy to take Sarah for a year or two. Harry wondering how he could make Sarah at least pretend to care about things she considered superficial. Morning arrived quickly, and Ferrari teenagers rushed around to prepare for the day, with their father trying to make sure everyone had breakfast. Their mother was already gone to the WPO regional office. Sarah, move your fat ass, or you're walking to school, Hank shouted up the stairs at his sister. The family joked that Hank and his older brother James got the good genes while their little sister was made from leftovers. She was short, overweight, with crooked teeth and bad skin. She didn't even look related to them, let alone their sister. The only thing they had in common was golden red hair and dark violet eyes. Hank, don't talk to your sister like that, his dad said in an angry voice. His dad loved Sarah, but his mom knew she was a lost cause. In Hank's eyes, his dad, a house husband, was as much of a waste as his sister. I'm coming. I couldn't find my laptop. Hank, have you seen it? Sarah asked as she walked down the stairs. Hank had taken it the night before to watch nasty movies after his laptop died. He threw it under the bed when he was finished. He was too tired to put it back, and he didn't care if Sarah missed it or not. No, I can't be responsible for your stuff. Now let's go. You'll just have to be fine without it. Sarah had assignments due today that were on the computer. It was her first year in high school, and she couldn't afford to get behind. She knew only Hank would have taken it, and he was not going to help her. She'd have to lose the points and deal with it. This was her life. A fool in a family of tyrants. Both of her brothers were egomaniacal, spoiled, rotten brats. Her mother was a rich, powerful, and pampered politician. Only her father was good and kind, but he did whatever her mother told him to do. Another family fool. Sure, Sarah conceded as she went out the door. On the way to school, they picked up Robin and Taylor, two handsome but shallow guys Hank took everywhere with him. They discussed who they thought were the sexiest girls at school, and Hank brought up the faggot, Justin, immediately after. You guys should leave Justin alone. He's a good person. He doesn't deserve your hate, Sarah chastised them. She loved Justin. He was worth more than an army of Hanks. Shut up. He's just a crybaby like you. He hasn't been back to school since the last time we got a hold of him, fucking coward, her brother said angrily. No, man, haven't you heard about the new WPO amendment? Robin said in a hushed, serious tone. They're terminating kids all the way up until their 18th birthday now. Justin's parents had him put down. Whatever you want to say, he didn't deserve that. He was actually pretty cool. He took a lot of shit from us and he never cried or ratted us out. Sarah's right. Sarah couldn't breathe. She couldn't believe she'd never see Justin again. He was one of the few genuinely good people she knew. How many more of her friends would be lost? Maybe that's what happened to Amanda. Things were already extremely hard for children. Kids like her, before licensing requirements and genetic manipulation, were looked at as inferior and burdens to their family. How many would meet their end because of this new amendment? Sarah moved through her day at school in a haze. She walked home alone, preferring miles of exertion to the inane chatter of her brother and his friends. She was aching over the loss of Justin and the new threat to children, as if children didn't have enough to fear. How sick was it that the world considered her a possession of her parents? Because they created her, she was at their mercy. She arrived home and tried to creep silently to her dad's library, hoping to evade detection from the dictators. She heard James bellowing about Chloe to her mother in the kitchen. Great, things were even more horrid when he was visiting. Sarah, is that you? Come say hello to your brother, her mother called out. Hey James, how are you? How are the babies? Sarah adored her nephew and niece. They were lovely little cherubs. Jacob was almost 2 and had big violet eyes, golden hair and dimples. Sophia was 6 months and a more delicate duplicate of Jacob. If not for the age difference, they could be twins. Perfect. They are well behaved. Jacob is potty trained and knows his alphabet in English and French. Their mother, however, is another matter, always crying and moping around. She even threatened to leave me, the silly thing. James answered with a smile that never reflected in his eyes. James was flawless, like a Michelangelo sculpture come to life. He followed in their mother's footsteps and had an esteemed position at WPO as a community relations figure. His title was Director of Citizen Relations, and he loved the attention. James's wife of choice shocked everyone. Chloe was a refugee from the WPO nation of France. France was one of many that didn't come through the leveling very well. Citizens that survived relocated to WPO nations with infrastructure and a decent quality of living, while leaving their homelands to become mass graveyards for the billions that died. Chloe had nothing when she arrived. However, she was beautiful, smart, and charming. She found a position at the WPO office James was assigned to as a receptionist. Her cheerful personality was a flame that drew James. They were dating right away. Even before James and Chloe married, they began to fight vehemently. She valued love, honesty, and kindness. James was focused on success, power, and having his every whim granted. Sometimes Chloe would give him whatever he wanted, but other times it seemed all he wanted was to subjugate her. They married anyway. Years later, the fighting had escalated, and Chloe was a sad, quiet ghost. Maybe you should bring her and the kids here, James. Get them out of the house. Now that Chloe isn't working, does she ever get out of the house? Sarah wondered. Sarah worried about Chloe. She knew firsthand how savage James could be. No, I don't dare let her out while she's acting so strangely. People might talk and I can't afford that, James answered while looking away from Sarah, his trademark posture when he was lying. Sarah, did you start that after-school fitness program I enrolled you in? James quickly changed the subject and put the focus on Sarah. I didn't have time today. I'll try and go tomorrow. What were you doing then? You're home hours later than usual, her mother questioned. I decided to walk home. I figured it'd be good for me. Wonderful. The class James found might be better, though. I want you to start it tomorrow. No arguments. You can't have a healthy mind without a healthy body, her mother chastised. Sarah's mother, Ginevra, was an ageless beauty, tall, slightly muscular, with deep bronze skin, dark auburn hair, and electric green eyes. Her voice purred when she talked, and everyone listened. Everyone except Sarah. Even as a baby, Sarah preferred the real love from her father over the contrived caring her mother acted out. "Sure, Mom, I'm going to start my homework." Sarah knew better than to argue. She quickly went to her room. Sarah had a soft, understated prettiness her mother and brothers were blind to, but many others were not. Her teeth an orthodontist would fix in no time, and her skin would heal on its own as her hormones leveled out. With effort, she could have emphasized her large, luminous eyes and tamed her thick, sunrise-colored hair. Instead, she hid behind baggy clothes, thick glasses, and a wild mane she didn't even try to style. Sarah's lack of regard for her appearance wasn't intentional. Her mind was focused on knowledge and how to make things better somehow. Her body was a vehicle that carried around her brain, which was the only thing that mattered to her. There was a clarity in Sarah's world perception that would have been more fitting of an old woman. She saw through false kindness, had no use for popularity, despised bullies, and found value in unique and caring people, regardless of any other attributes they might have. This drove her mother crazy. Sarah often wondered what the world was like before WPO took over everything. If you follow the history books, they saved mankind and governed people with the good of society always their focus. The WP slogan was, "Together for the greater good." The greater good came at the price of liberty. No separate nation existed. WPO controlled them all, one governing body across the globe. Sarah heard Hank talking to her mother downstairs. He was going out with James. Now was her chance. As soon as she heard them exit the front door, she went to Hank's room. She checked his desk, backpack, and bed. Then she looked through his drawers. Her laptop had to be in his room. She was checking through his underwear drawer and found a pornography magazine. It was a males-only edition. This didn't surprise her, and she made sure to hide it back in the same spot. She kneeled down and checked under the bed. There it was, just as she suspected. As she was leaving his room, the door opened. Hank looked terrified. "What are you doing in my room? Give me that computer now!" Hank shouted crazily, and James appeared behind him. "What's going on?" James looked surprised to see Sarah in Hank's room. "I was getting my computer back from your brother so I can do my homework. He keeps taking it without asking and not giving it back." That made sense to James, but he liked Hank more than Sarah, so he gave her a serious look and replied, "Why don't you get out of Hank's room? You have no business in there. If he has your computer, then ask him for it." Sarah knew she was outnumbered by the autocrats and wanted this over before their mother got involved as well. "Sure," she said as she walked past them. Hank ripped the laptop out of her hands. "I have stuff I need off this first. You can wait until then." Sarah wanted to fight back. When she was younger, she used to, but always ended up with Hank's and James being praised while she was punished. It didn't matter if they were provoking her. Their parents had created a pair of dreadful bullies. Someday they'd regret it. Hank threw Sarah's laptop on his bed, slammed the door, and then left with James. The drama was over, at least for now. Sarah went to their father's library. If she couldn't do her homework, at least she could nourish her mind. She wasn't surprised to find her father already there with his face buried in FOSS. "Hey, sweetie, how was your day?" He spotted her the minute she walked in. Her father was aware of the world around him no matter how engrossed he was in a book. It was an amazing skill. It was awful. The WPO is allowing children to be terminated until the age of 18. Justin's parents terminated him. Amanda is still missing. Maybe she was terminated too. How can it be okay for parents to do this? I think James is hurting Chloe again. Why does our society have to destroy the helpless and the gentle? Why is life so cruel? I think there are many wonderful things in life. You just have to pay attention to them. The world is fraught with looming tragedies, and they can obscure the bountiful joy that exists. You must make a conscious choice to follow the path of happiness. If you try to fight against injustice on a large scale, you will lose. If you rage against hate, you will become a vessel for hate. You have to change things by being yourself, despite how hard that is, by bringing love to life through you. I wish it worked that way, Dad. It seems like kindness makes you a target and love is exploited. Look at you and Mom. Your mother wasn't always how she is now. She was full of hope once and believed she could make a difference. I don't know where she lost her vision. She keeps so much from me. But when you genuinely love someone, you stand by them, even when they are not themselves. Okay, I'm going to grab a book and go back to my room, Sarah answered softly. There was no use talking to her dad. Sometimes his optimism blinded him. Don't you have homework you should be doing? He asked as she was going back to her room. Hank borrowed my computer, so I have to wait until he gets home. That's rubbish. He has his own to use. He has no reason to use yours. It's in his room, and when I tried to get it back, he and James got angry with me. It's better to wait until he's done with it. No, I'll grab it for you. They won't have much to say then. Harry went upstairs with Sarah and rescued the laptop from Hank's bed. His sons were spoiled by their mother, but they knew better than to give him a hard time. She would defend him viciously. Harry often wondered if Ginevra protected him out of love or because she viewed him as her possession and no one else was allowed to abuse him. If Ginevra loved him, could she disrespect him and mistreat their daughter the way she did? Or was her love twisted and can only be expressed as a controlling dictatorship? Harry didn't know, and he was too far down the path with her to change his course now. Here, let me know if Hank bothers you. I'll take care of it. Harry handed Sarah the laptop and headed back to the library. Sarah was too disheartened for Harry to bring up her appearance today. Some other time would be better. Ginevra would have to wait a little while longer to get her way. Sarah sat at her desk, plugged in her laptop, and prepared to work. She had a lot to catch up on. She noticed an unnamed folder on her desktop screen. It must contain the files Hank talked about. She should delete it. It would serve him right. Instead, her curiosity got the best of her and she opened it. Hundreds of picture thumbnails were in it. She clicked on one to enlarge it and felt sick at the result. The image was a naked 2-year-old boy hanging from the ceiling by his neck, struggling to get free. He was using one little hand to cover his penis and pulling on the rope around his neck with the other. Sarah clicked on another thumbnail. This one showed a 7-year-old boy crawling naked on all fours with a man's foot on his back. She clicked again. This one was a video of a man raping a young teenager while he was crying. Hank was demented and probably dangerous. She had to show her father. Sarah ran downstairs. Dad, come here. I need to show you something. Sarah knew her parents had to see this before Hank got back. Harry went to her on the stairs. What's wrong? He looked up at Sarah, his face wrinkled in worry. Please, just come to my room. Sarah knew the only way to explain this to her father was to show him. Harry followed Sarah. She pointed to the image on the laptop. That's what Harry borrowed my laptop for. Oh my God, Harry exclaimed. He looked through more of the images and videos. He stopped after 20. It was too much. What was wrong with Hank? How did he learn about things like this and worse, start becoming excited by them? They had to get him help, and they needed to find out where he got this material. There were monsters out in the world that needed to be stopped. I'll go talk to your mother. Don't say anything to Hank until we talk to him. Okay, Dad. Harry entered Ginevra's den. She was working on a community presentation about the new termination benefits, how there would be no more orphans, abused children, children in poverty, and money would be saved that could be used for community programs like public education. Watching her, he knew somehow she had become one of the oppressors she used to vow to overthrow. When he met Ginevra, she wanted to use her power and wealth to help others gain more freedom and lessen the grip the WPO had on the people. Over the years, they effectively changed her core values through lavish rewards and implied threats. She believed the dogma now. Honey, something's wrong with Hank. I need to show you. Harry stood by the door. He hated the vibe that seemed to emanate from the room. almost as if the evil Ginevra engaged in at work followed her home and resided comfortably in her den. Ginevra looked up at him. "I'm sure you're overreacting. There isn't anything wrong with Hank." She followed him up to Sarah's room. When Ginevra looked through the images on Sarah's laptop, she had no reaction. She didn't even blink. "I don't see a problem here. He didn't do any of these things. He's a curious teenager. Lots of young men become curious about morbid happenings. Delete these and give him his privacy." "Mom, this is not normal. It's not normal the way Hank attacks other kids at school or the way he hurts people and laughs. You need to do something." "Honestly, Sarah, I'm a lot more worried about you. Hank is going to succeed. If he's more self-serving and crueler than most, then it will be easier for him. You are a sheep waiting for slaughter. At work, I hear people talking about you behind my back, mocking me for having a child like you. You are a weakness in the family and make us vulnerable. You need to toughen up and start carrying yourself like a Ferrari." "My God, Mom, who are you?" "I'm the director of the WPO regional office, and I expect my family to support that position by being leading community examples. What you do privately doesn't matter. What matters is the image you put out. I won't be questioned by you. Act right, forget about this issue with Hank, or I swear you will regret it." Ginevra took Sarah's laptop and went back to the den. She didn't know what to do. Hank had potential. He could easily be groomed to take her place. His weird little idiosyncrasy could be repressed and hidden until he was at the level where they would be appropriate. Sarah was another matter. She wasn't cut out to survive this world, too soft and sweet. Termination would be a kindness. That night, Ginevra made passionate love to Harry. It lasted hours until they both lay satisfied and exhausted. Harry had his head resting on Ginevra's chest while she stroked his hair. "Harry, we have to do something about Sarah. I don't know where we went wrong with her, but she's not strong enough to be part of this family. Her constant questioning of the WPO is going to get us re-educated or worse. You know she's going to tell someone about Hank. She won't be able to stop herself thinking she is saving innocent children. He will be terminated and probably the entire family after him. We need to take her to the clinic. Sarah already heard rumors about it, so she won't go willingly. I'll have a transport come for her." "Ginevra, we can't murder our child. What's happened to you?" "Nothing happened to me. Quit ignoring the obvious. Sarah will not do well. Eventually, she is going to get us in a lot of trouble. The kindest thing we could do would be stop it now. Are you willing to sacrifice us all for her? In my position, you don't get fired. You get permanently removed. I love you, Harry, and I do love Sarah, but this is what's best for everyone." Harry didn't reply. There was nothing to say. If he pushed the issue too hard, Ginevra would dispose of him as well. Ginevra took Harry's silence for the consent it was. "It's okay, love. We are still fairly young. We can try again. We can apply to the Child by Design program and make sure there are no mistakes this time." The next evening had a sorrow-filled stillness to it. Sarah hardly spoke a word to anyone after getting home from school. Their father was quiet and reflective. Their mother stayed working in her den the entire evening, not even joining them for dinner. Only Hank, completely obvious to the family's discovery of his dark secrets, was his usual loud and boastful self, but his words were ignored. The family went to bed that night in continued silence. "Hank, get up now," his mother whispered furiously while shaking him. "What? What's going on?" "You need to see what happens if you cause trouble for this family. This is your example and your last warning." "What are you talking about, Mom?" "Sarah found the folder you left on her computer and showed it to your father and I. Then I went to your room and got your computer. I saw the video history and the images you have on there and the messages you've been sending to those horrible men. I have your school file full of things that I had to make go away. You are going to get yourself under control or you will pay the price." "Yes, Mother," he answered. Ginevra was the only person that terrified Hank. "Your sister is not able to keep your secret and she already causes a lot of talk about us, so we're going to take care of her. If you screw up one more time, I will take care of you. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Mother." Good. I need you to hold Sarah down while I give her an injection. Once she falls asleep, we need to carry her to a van parked outside. They're already waiting for her. Let's go. Ginevra and Hank quietly crept into Sarah's room. Hank jumped on top of Sarah and pinned her down, while his mother covered her mouth with one hand and injected her with the other. She struggled for a few minutes and then relaxed. Her eyes were still halfway open and she was making small sounds, but unable to fight anymore. Hank lifted Sarah by the shoulders and his mother grabbed her legs. They carried her down the stairs and out the back door without incident. 3 men in WPO medical uniforms were waiting in front of an emergency transport parked in the alley behind the Ferrari's house. They injected Sarah again before putting her onto a gurney inside the vehicle. They closed the transport's doors and sped away. Ginevra looked sternly at her son. I scheduled her for termination. You're next if you make one more mistake. No more twisted perversions, no more torturing other children or animals. If you really want those things, you'll have to earn them. You'd need a high enough position in the WPO and a large enough fortune so no one will care what you do. Until then, keep yourself in check or end up like Sarah. Yes, Mother. Hank felt no remorse. Sarah was an inconvenience for him at best. His mother's words excited him. If he became powerful enough, he could do anything. It was exhilarating. He would follow the rules and wait until he was able to make his fantasies come true. Ginevra went to work the next day light-hearted. A great burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She knew Harry was upset, but she could fix it. A baby would take his mind off Sarah and give him something to focus his love on. Harry was nothing like Ginevra, but his constant encouragement helped her succeed. He also gained her envious looks from numerous other WPO elite that wished they had a mate as intelligent, handsome, and supportive as hers. Ginevra still couldn't fathom how the great genetics from Harry and herself managed to produce a subpar child like Sarah. The unwanted mix must have come from someone on his side generations ago. When Ginevra had a break between meetings, she went to the Child by Design office in the WPO Child Services Department. Miss Oblonsky was at the desk today. She was very professional and thorough. Ginevra got along with her well. Good afternoon, Miss Oblonsky. How are you today? I'm very well, Director Ferrari. How can I help you? Miss Oblonsky looked up at Ginevra and closed the file she was working on. My husband and I would like to apply for a license to have another child. We want to utilize the Child by Design program this time. I already completed the paperwork and I have Agent Washington from your own department as my sponsor. Ginevra handed Miss Oblonsky a large folder. That's wonderful, Director Ferrari. With your position and Agent Washington's support, I think we can fast-track your application. You should be holding your new baby by next year. Congratulations. Miss Oblonsky placed Ginevra's folder on top of a massive pile on the desk. Ginevra's position came with many privileges and she loved it. Thank you, Miss Oblonsky. Have a productive day. Ginevra walked back to her office quickly. She wanted to call Harry right away and give him the good news. This time they would have a perfect daughter worthy of bearing the family name. So that was chapter 4. I think we're getting a deeper look at the WPO world, and we're seeing how terrifying it is for children to be cast aside and easily replaced. Today's society, children are also viewed as property, and I don't think it's a stretch for us to end up where we are in this book. So please join me next week so we can see more of what this future might be if we don't change it. Until then, I hope these stories keep you up at night.